William, listen carefully. I, Lydia, will never have children in this lifetime, because no man is worth making me suffer through 10 months of pregnancy for him. At the company dinner party, Lydia said those words to me in front of everyone. Under the crowd's complicated gazes, I left quietly and went home, only to receive a package. Inside was Lydia's pregnancy examination report. She had already been pregnant for a month, but I had been away on a business trip 2 months ago and only came back yesterday. Faced with such a massive betrayal, I surprisingly didn't feel much heartbreak. Instead, I felt relieved. I called Lydia after she picked up. I said calmly, "Find some time, let's get divorced." "William, what kind of drama are you pulling now? Just because I won't give you a child, you want a divorce?" Lydia's voice was filled with disgust. "Lydia, look at these tiny socks. Would they look cute on our baby?" A sissy-sounding male voice rang out. It was Gerald, Lydia's childhood friend. The call was hung up. Chapter 1. I glanced around the villa I had treated as home for the past 7 years and let out a long breath. I had bought this villa in full before marriage, but now I didn't even want it anymore. It disgusted me. I planned to move out and sell the place afterward. Just as I was packing my things, the front door opened. Lydia walked in with Gerald clinging to her arm. "William, where are the slippers? Gerald gets cold easily. Go get him a pair of slippers." The way Lydia spoke to me had always been bossy and commanding. Gerald curled his lips into a smug smile and looked at me provocatively, yet his tone remained soft and delicate. "Liam, sorry to trouble you." I casually stuffed my design drafts into the suitcase without saying a word, not even sparing them another glance, because the moment I looked at them, my body reacted violently. I almost threw up. That nauseating feeling was like being drunk and already wanting to vomit, only to get trapped in a car rattling down a bumpy road while surrounded by overwhelmingly sweet perfume. The disgust made cold sweat bead across my forehead. "Are you deaf?" Seeing me ignore her, Lydia took off one of her high heels and hurled it at me. I dodged it and merely gave her a cold glance, still unwilling to say anything. Only then did Lydia notice the suitcase. Frowning, she asked, "What's the meaning of this?" "I already said it on the phone." "Divorce," I answered lightly, without the slightest emotion, even though I had once loved her down to my bones. When disappointment keeps piling up, love can vanish in an instant. "Liam, are you upset because of me?" "But Liam, I already told you before, I'm not into women. Lydia and I are basically sisters." Gerald spoke in a syrupy voice. "How about this, Liam? I'll apologize to you. Please don't be angry anymore. I'll try not to bother Lydia so much in the future." "Gerald, what did you do wrong?" "William's just petty and jealous. This has nothing to do with you, and the only reason he's throwing a tantrum is because I don't want to have his child." Lydia looked at me with open contempt. "William, if I had known you'd turn out like this, I would never have agreed to marry you in the first place. It's not too late to divorce now." I zipped up my suitcase, checked my drawing equipment one last time, then walked toward the door. "I'll put the villa up with an agent. You should move out as soon as possible." Chapter 2. You're selling our home. Lydia suddenly exploded shrilly and grabbed my arm. "William, I just don't want to have your child. Is divorce really necessary? We agreed from the beginning that you wouldn't force me to have children. But at today's dinner, in front of so many people, you brought it up again. I only said a few words to embarrass you publicly, and now you want a divorce. Don't touch me. You're filthy." I shook her hand off. "Filthy? William, are you insane?" Lydia became even angrier. She had always been proud, so naturally she couldn't stand my blatant disgust toward her. "Am I wrong?" I asked back before continuing. "And besides, the one who brought up children today was Chairman Kim, not me. But even if it had been me, you should have at least left me some dignity in front of outsiders. Yet you didn't. So in your eyes, is William just some pathetic loser who doesn't even deserve basic respect? Everyone knows you're close with Chairman Kim. He was obviously speaking for you. And what dignity do you even have? I'm the company's chairwoman. You only have status because you're my husband. Once you divorce me, what will you even have left?" Her face was filled with mockery. I silently stared at her, finding it hard to believe she could actually say such things. Seeing me remain quiet, Lydia thought she had me under control again. She pointed at me and snapped, "Now, apologize to Gerald immediately. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you again." "Lydia, Liam loves you so much. It's normal for him to get jealous. There's no need for an apology." Gerald sounded considerate and understanding, but the way he looked at me was full of provocation and smugness. "Hear that, William? Gerald is kind and generous, while you're always petty and narrow-minded." Lydia sneered. "If Gerald actually liked women, I might not even have chosen you in the first place. You disappoint me that much." Seeing that I still said nothing, Gerald put on an even more pitiful tone. "All right, Lydia, don't make things hard for Liam anymore. How about this? I'll apologize to him, and if he's still upset, I can even kneel and apologize." As he spoke, he actually knelt in front of me. "Liam, this is all my fault. Even though I don't like women, Other people still see me as a man. I spend so much time with Lydia, and that really does make you lose face. I didn't think it through carefully enough. Liam, I sincerely apologize to you now, and I promise to cut ties with Lydia completely. As Gerald spoke, tears streamed down his face, and he even started kowtowing to me, just to steal someone else's woman. This guy was really willing to go all out. When Lydia saw this, her anger flared even more, and she slapped toward me. I casually blocked her hand and looked at the two of them coldly. What a joke. They cheated on me, and now they still wanted to hit me. You dare hit me? Lydia looked utterly disbelieving. I glanced at her indifferently and said, Lydia, I was away on a business trip for 2 months, yet you've been pregnant for 1 month with someone else's child. I really want to know, where exactly do you get the confidence to keep barking at me like this? As I spoke, I casually slapped the pregnancy report against her face. Lydia's face instantly turned pale, panic flooding her eyes, but after only a second, her expression became vicious again. William, I'm your wife, and you actually investigated me. Don't you have even the slightest trust in me? You're carrying another man's child, yet you can still say something like that. You really are an absolute top-tier menace. Chapter 3. I was so angry that I actually laughed. And I never investigated you in the first place. This pregnancy report was just delivered by courier. Gerald cried out softly. Lydia, maybe I accidentally filled in the wrong address. That's why Liam got upset. It's all my fault. It's not your fault. This isn't even a big deal. He shouldn't be angry over something like this. Lydia looked at me coldly. William, your mind is filthy. So naturally everything you see looks dirty to you. She was literally pregnant with another man's child. Yet somehow I was the filthy one. To be honest, when I found out I'd been cheated on, I was angry, sure, but I also felt relieved, because I no longer loved her. So none of this actually hurt as much as it should have. But Lydia's shameless attitude genuinely pissed me off. Then tell me, exactly how am I filthy? I asked seriously. Lydia replied. The child in my belly is Gerald's, but we never did anything. It was artificial insemination. So, I nearly burst out laughing. So what? William, do you even have any compassion? Because of his orientation, Gerald's family has been putting enormous pressure on him. To comfort his parents, he wanted a child of his own. Gerald and I grew up together. It's my responsibility to help him with this. Or are you really heartless enough to just watch him suffer under all that pressure forever? Lydia spoke with righteous conviction, as though she had done some noble, selfless deed. I laughed again out of sheer disbelief. As expected of a top-tier menace, her thought process was absurd beyond comprehension. Lydia, we've been married for years, yet you never agreed to have a child with me. And today, in front of everyone, you declared that no man in this world was worth making you suffer through pregnancy for. But while saying that, you were already carrying another man's child. Do you seriously have no shame? I sneered. Lydia glared at me viciously. So this really is all because I refused to give you a child? You're so small-minded. I'm truly disappointed in you. All right, enough. I seriously don't want to waste time arguing logic with someone mentally hopeless. I waved my hand dismissively. I'll prepare the divorce agreement as soon as possible. Meanwhile, hurry up and move out. After saying that, I turned to leave. Suddenly, Gerald started crying again. Lydia, if you two divorce, then our baby will be born into a single-parent family. What he was actually hoping for was obvious. He wanted Lydia to impulsively say she would marry him, solving that single-parent problem instantly. But instead, Lydia suddenly grabbed my arm and looked at me with utter disgust. William, stop making a scene already. You heard him just now. If we divorce, this baby will grow up in a single-parent household. You can't be this cold-hearted. So what exactly are you saying? You don't want a divorce, and instead expect me to help you and Gerald raise your child? I honestly wanted to crack open her skull just to see if her brain was filled with garbage. Chapter 4. Gerald spoke up first. Liam, actually, you don't need to worry about that. After the baby is born, I'll come over often to help take care of the child too. And then the 4 of us can live happily together as one big family. I laughed again out of sheer anger. To my disbelief, Gerald actually nodded. Liam, wouldn't that be wonderful? Wonderful my ass. Lydia may have lost her mind, but do you think I've lost mine too? What normal man would tolerate his wife carrying another man's child? I sneered, shook Lydia's hand off, and headed for the door. William, you're so uncivilized. How can you curse at people like that? Lydia rushed over and grabbed me again. I turned my head slightly and glanced at her, my voice colder than ice. Lydia, we're all adults here. Have some dignity left and prepare the divorce papers as soon as possible. Then I walked back over to Gerald. Looking at his pretentious face, I threw a punch straight at him. In an instant, blood burst from Gerald's nose and mouth as he collapsed to the floor screaming. That punch is your warning. If you keep pulling stunts like this, there'll be even harsher consequences waiting for you. If I were you, I'd just cling to Lydia like the worn-out cheater she is and stop coming around to disgust me. I turned and walked away. William, are you crazy? How can you hit someone? And who are you calling a worn-out cheater? I'm your wife. Lydia rushed over and grabbed at me, refusing to let me leave. I backhanded her across the face without hesitation. The slap sent her crashing to the ground. Listen carefully, Lydia. When I loved you, there were many things I could tolerate, but I don't love you anymore. So you'd better take a good hard look at yourself and remember exactly how we got together in the first place. Lydia seemed unable to believe I had actually hit her, and from the panic in her eyes, it was obvious she had realized I was truly determined this time. After leaving the villa, I drove to the luxury apartment near the company. I had bought the place a while ago, though I rarely stayed there. After tidying up briefly, I threw myself into work. The company had recently taken on a massive project, and the blueprints were already in their final stage. They had to be completed as quickly as possible. In the past, Lydia would have affected my emotions so badly that I couldn't focus on work, but now that my feelings for her were gone, I only felt lighter. I worked all the way until midnight before finally finishing the last touches. After sleeping for only a few hours, I immediately headed to the company. For a project this large, the final design proposal had to be presented before the board of directors. Inside the conference room, I was discussing project details with the board members when the doors were suddenly shoved open violently. Lydia walked in with Gerald and over a dozen security guards. Gerald put on a well-tailored suit, no longer looking like a sissy, his face filled with the smugness of a petty man who had finally gotten his way. William, you're fired. Leave immediately. Gerald pointed at me as though he were driving away a stray dog. Chapter 5. Inside the conference room, everyone froze. They stared at Gerald in complete disbelief. Back then, Gerald had only been a low-level employee in the company. He hadn't even been qualified to enter this conference room, and now he was trying to fire me. The sheer absurdity of it stunned everyone present. Chairman Kim frowned. Gerald, do you even know what you're saying? Chairman Kim, I'm the company's general manager now. I absolutely have the authority to fire a design director, Gerald declared arrogantly. All eyes immediately turned toward Lydia. Appointing a general manager without board approval was outrageous. After all, this wasn't some amateur operation, nor was it a family business. It was a corporation built on the interests of multiple shareholders, and the general manager was essentially one of the company's key decision-makers, a critically important position. Appointments were supposed to be handled extremely carefully. Lydia sat in the head chair of the conference table and glared at me furiously. William, didn't you insist on divorcing me? Since that's the case, then you're no longer suitable to work at my company, unless you give up the idea of divorce. Divorce? The expressions on the directors' faces immediately became complicated. Everyone knew how obsessed I had once been with Lydia. Calling me a simp wouldn't even have been far off. So how could I possibly be the one asking for a divorce? The divorce is happening no matter what. I calmly set down my thermos cup, leaned back in my chair, and said, as for you, Lydia, I propose removing you from the position of chairwoman. Let's vote by show of hands. As I spoke, I raised my hand first. Chairman Kim froze briefly before immediately raising his hand as well. The other directors followed one after another. Lydia was stunned. Then she suddenly shouted, I'm the chairwoman. I have veto power. Gerald nearly exploded on the spot too. Are all of you insane? Instead of listening to the chairwoman, you're siding with William, this pathetic keptman. The directors all looked at him as though he were a complete idiot. Gerald immediately roared at the security guards. What are you standing around for? Throw William out right now. But the security guards didn't move at all. In fact, they were also looking at him like he was an idiot. Lydia, have you sat in that position for so long that you actually started believing you deserved it? I asked calmly. Lydia was just about to explode in anger when she suddenly froze, because she had finally remembered something important. Back in university, I had already started my own business. Chairman Kim had been my very first investor. After we made our first fortune together, we expanded the company rapidly. Chairman Kim then introduced me to the current board members. Because I had already proven my abilities, the other directors were willing to invest and test the waters with me. As the business grew larger and larger, I became something of a celebrity on campus. And since I was already fairly handsome, there were plenty of people pursuing me. At the time, Lydia had been both my apprentice and one of my admirers. Her beauty was breathtaking, and she was ambitious too. Being constantly around me, our relationship naturally developed. I was the kind of person who, once committed to someone, devoted himself wholeheartedly. So I loved her deeply, down to my bones. After we got married, I even let her take the chairwoman's position so she could look prestigious in front of her family. As for Gerald, he had actually always been around in our lives, but I had once personally witnessed Gerald kissing another man. So from the very beginning, I had never suspected him. Only recently did I start hearing rumors that the scene I witnessed back then had actually been staged by Gerald himself. He had never been gay at all. After hearing that, I demanded that Lydia keep her distance from him, but she refused to believe me and even mocked me for being petty and jealous. Then, because I had to leave for a field investigation project, I stopped paying attention to the matter. Who could have expected that by the time I returned, Lydia was already pregnant with Gerald's child? Even if it had been through artificial insemination, I still couldn't accept it. As for the company shares, I personally held 65% ownership. Lydia held absolutely none, not because I had been guarding against her, but because the directors only trusted me to control the shares. So even though I had always carried the title of design director, in reality, I had always been the true person in power at this company. Chapter 6. William, you're just a mere design director. I seriously don't know what you're pretending to be. Gerald suddenly started shouting again. Then he turned to Lydia. Lydia, why aren't you saying anything? Hurry and have security throw him out. I don't want to see him. Shut up, Lydia shouted sharply. Gerald froze in place. Lydia, how could you yell at me? Lydia ignored him completely and instead looked at me with tears in her eyes. William, I know I was wrong. Can we not divorce? Please, just give me one more chance. I shifted my gaze away and looked at the security guards. Escort them out. Starting from this moment, they are banned from entering the company. After the farce finally ended, we finished the meeting, but Chairman Kim and the others showed no intention of leaving. They had all been my close friends for many years, so naturally they cared about my marriage. And since I was the true person in power at the company, my marital situation would absolutely affect the business as well. I knew they were worried my divorce from Lydia might destabilize the company. Don't worry, everyone. This matter won't affect the company. I smiled faintly. There are still plenty of business connections we need to secure. Let's all get moving. With my reassurance, the directors finally relaxed a little. That evening, when I returned home, I had barely opened the door before I saw a group of people inside. Lydia, Gerald, and a middle-aged couple. The couple were Lydia's parents. Only then did I remember that the password to this luxury apartment was Lydia's birthday, and I had forgotten to change it. So you still know how to come home? Lydia's father questioned sternly. I casually tossed my suit jacket to my assistant, walked over to the liquor cabinet, picked out a bottle, and poured myself a drink before replying calmly. What? Your daughter got pregnant with another man's child, and now you're the ones coming here to interrogate me. The moment those words came out, Lydia's parents' expressions instantly darkened. Lydia herself turned pale, her eyes full of pleading as she looked at me. Meanwhile, Gerald looked furious and had completely dropped the weak little act. Lydia's father slammed the table angrily. I'm sure Lydia already explained everything to you. Gerald was under too much pressure, which is why he came up with this solution. Lydia is such a kind person. How could she possibly refuse to help him? I looked directly at Lydia's mother. Then why don't you go carry another man's child and ask your husband whether he'd be happy about it? Lydia's mother, who had been about to lash out, instantly turned green with anger. Lydia's father roared. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? My wife would never carry another man's child. The moment the words left his mouth, he realized he had screwed up. So you're hypocrites too. My wife carrying another man's child is acceptable, but your wife doing it isn't. I shook my head with a laugh and pointed toward the door. Enough. You people clearly came here just to make trouble, and I can't be bothered arguing with you anymore. Before I lose my temper, get out. William, how can you speak to your elders like that? No matter what, they're still your parents-in-law. How can you treat them this way? Gerald shouted at me. I sneered. Fine. Let me explain this one last time using basic logic. Lydia is carrying your child. Even if it was artificial insemination, no normal man would ever accept it. Anyone with basic morals and common sense would know she's in the wrong. So if these two old fools had come here today to apologize for their daughter, I would still respectfully call them uncle and auntie. But the ridiculous part is that they actually came here to question me instead. And honestly, I'd like to ask you something too. Have I spoiled you for so many years that you now think William is someone anyone can push around? I bought you villas. I bought you cars. I loaded tens of thousands into spa membership cards for you without blinking. Even the money Lydia's father spent fooling around at clubs came out of my pocket. If I throw a chicken drumstick to a stray dog on the roadside, at least it remembers to wag its tail the next time it sees me. But after everything I've done for your family, you people ended up treating me like a dog instead. Chapter 7. I pointed toward the door once again. There are 8 bodyguards outside, so before I call them in to throw you all out, get lost. William, after everything we've been through together, can't you forgive me just this once? Lydia rushed over, dropped to her knees in front of me, and clung tightly to my leg. Lydia, forgive you for what exactly? Forgive you for becoming arrogant because I spoiled you, for treating me like I wasn't even human. Back then, you were the one who pursued me first, and the night we slept together, you got me drunk, otherwise I wouldn't have agreed to it so easily. Fine. Since I chose you, I treated you wholeheartedly. I even handed you the chairwoman position in my company just so you could save face. But have you sat in that position for so long that you genuinely started believing you deserved it? That you could stop treating me like a person altogether? I forcefully pulled my leg free and shoved Lydia aside. She collapsed onto the floor crying hysterically. William, I really know I was wrong. These past years, I got carried away. I shouldn't have treated you that way. And I shouldn't have let Gerald manipulate me into agreeing to carry his child. Enough. Get out. I looked at her coldly. Everything you've had all these years came from my love for you. Now that love is gone, it means you'll lose everything too. William, I truly know I was wrong. Please forgive me just once. Lydia sobbed desperately. I sneered. You don't regret what you did. You're just terrified of losing everything. Fine. Divorce is possible then. Lydia's father suddenly spoke up. But you must give Lydia company shares. Lydia's mother quickly added. And I really like this apartment too. You have to give it to us. Otherwise don't even think about getting divorced. Dumbass. Do you people seriously not understand the situation? During our marriage, Lydia got pregnant with another man's child. If I file for divorce, what exactly do you think the court is going to rule? And besides, Gerald has been making massive kickback profits through Lydia at the company all these years. I've already reported it to the police. Lydia not only cheated during the marriage, but also damaged company interests. Even if I wanted to give her shares, the board would never approve it. Your whole family is mentally hopeless. You don't even understand basic common sense. Yet you still want to scam compensation out of me. I had completely run out of patience. Turning to my assistant, I said, call people in and throw them out. William, aren't you afraid I'll go public with this and crash your company's stock price? Gerald shouted angrily. Lydia's father hurriedly chimed in too. That's right. We'll go protest downstairs at your company with banners saying you abandoned your wife after using her. We'll expose you online too. Netizens nowadays are brainless idiots. They'll blindly sympathize with women and cyberbully you to death. Lydia's mother nodded repeatedly. Exactly. I heard reputation is extremely important for stock prices. I stared at them in disbelief, so speechless that I couldn't even respond. Then, pfft. Even my assistant burst out laughing. We're professionally trained. Normally, no matter how funny something is, we can hold it in, unless we really can't. Chapter 8. My assistant was practically laughing to tears. Have you people been reading too many soap operas? Do you really think some relationship drama can seriously affect a company that much? And even if it could, it would have to be a publicly traded company first. Our company isn't even listed. What stock are you talking about? Lydia's father froze. That's impossible. If there are shares, then how can there not be stocks? I glanced at Lydia with contempt. Looking at your brainless parents, I suddenly understand why you turned out this mindless too. William, I truly know I was wrong. Lydia seemed completely broken at this point, repeating only that one sentence over and over. She climbed to her feet and cried. I'll go terminate the baby right now, and then I'll have your child instead. Okay, Lydia. Remember that Patek Philippe watch I used to own? The one your father is wearing right now. It was worth over 2 million. After he wore it once, I gave it to him. Do you know why I gave it away? Because once something has been used by someone else, I find it filthy. You're filthy now too, Lydia. I took another sip of wine and walked toward the staircase. Oh, and one more thing. That Gerald guy carefully schemed his way into your life. He even staged that whole act to make me believe he wasn't into women. Do you really think it was because he loved you? If I'm guessing right, his plan was to trick you into getting pregnant so I'd divorce you. He assumed you'd definitely get company shares afterward, and then he could swallow up your entire family's assets. Lydia looked at Gerald in disbelief. Meanwhile, Gerald lowered his head and said nothing, because that had been his plan all along. By then, the bodyguards had already entered and started dragging everyone toward the door. But suddenly, Lydia ran into the kitchen. When she came back out, she was holding a knife. She pressed it against her own neck. William, if you insist on divorcing me, then I'll die right here in front of you. Then go die somewhere else. If you die in my house, I'll still need to sell it afterward. A property where someone died loses value. I sounded completely heartless, and honestly, it wasn't an act. When I loved her, and when she deserved that love, I would have treated her like my entire world. But once she no longer deserved it, especially after doing something like this, she became worthless in my eyes. Lydia cried hysterically. You're too cruel. Can you use your brain for once? You're a married woman carrying another man's child. Do you seriously think that's something forgivable? Have you spent so much time online reading nonsense from lunatics that you genuinely believe this world has no logic or morality left at all? I gave up on going upstairs and instead headed straight for the exit. Forget it. I'm putting this place up for sale too. Bad luck sticks to it now. As for whether Lydia truly intended to kill herself, I couldn't care less. Suddenly, Lydia shouted from behind me. Even if that's true, does that mean you did nothing wrong at all? Wrong my ass. Are you actually brain dead? I couldn't stop myself from cursing. Then, without even looking back, I left. As I walked away, I vaguely heard Lydia's mother say, Lydia, Cut your wrists, then he'll definitely feel sorry for you. What the hell? Was this entire family mentally insane? What kind of hopeless simp would still pity her after all this? Because it definitely wasn't going to be me. Chapter 9. The next day, when I arrived at the company, I saw hundreds of people gathered outside the building. Most of them were office workers from the surrounding companies, all blocked from entering the building now, because Lydia's parents had hired a crowd to stage a sit-in protest at the entrance. Behind them hung a massive banner. William of Sincere Realty abandoned Lydia after getting her pregnant, nearly causing 2 deaths. A huge number of people in the crowd were filming. Some were even live streaming, probably influencers and streamers chasing drama. The building's security guards, along with the police who had arrived, didn't even dare approach, because surrounding the outermost edge of the protest were trembling elderly people who immediately started wailing the second anyone got close, screaming things like "the police are beating people." Gerald held a microphone while Lydia lay beside him on a stretcher, pretending to be unconscious. "Everyone, we never wanted to disturb anybody, but William is simply too cruel. Lydia is carrying his child, yet he still wants a divorce. Now Lydia became suicidal and almost lost both her life and the babies. We had nowhere left to seek justice, which is why we had to do this. After all, William is too powerful for ordinary people like us to offend, and the woman he cheated with is a female CEO from a major corporation. We can't afford to offend her either. Please, everyone, help us seek justice." As Gerald spoke, he even started crying dramatically. At that moment, I was standing hidden among the crowd, thinking these idiots really had the guts to take things this far. And honestly, today's internet environment was exactly why people like this could stir up endless chaos. Still, I did have a slight headache over one particular issue, because this so-called female CEO actually did have a little history with me. Well, history was probably too strong a word. It was entirely one-sided on Freya's part. At one banquet, Freya got drunk, and someone casually asked why she still wasn't married. She openly admitted she had someone she liked, but when people asked who it was, she refused to say. In the end, she drunkenly revealed only this: the man she liked had once been her senior in school, a campus legend. Naturally, people started investigating, and among all possible candidates, I was the only one who matched. The story ended up trending online. Back then, Lydia even fought with me over it, but the truth was, Freya and I had never met privately, even in public settings. We barely exchanged more than greetings. I never expected this old gossip would eventually be weaponized against me. My assistant handed me a phone showing the live stream. People in the comments were already exposing me, claiming Freya and I had secretly been having an affair for years. I couldn't help laughing bitterly. Honestly, I didn't care much. Rumors without evidence spread online every day. Once people got bored gossiping, they would move on. But then, a stunning silver McLaren suddenly pulled into the plaza in front of the building. As the car door opened, the first thing everyone saw was a pair of impossibly long legs. Tall, elegant, cold and breathtakingly beautiful. Freya stepped out gracefully into everyone's view. Her name suited her perfectly. Beautiful, noble, commanding, she radiated the aura of a powerful woman effortlessly. And the moment she got out of the car, she immediately spotted me in the crowd and walked straight over. Naturally, everyone else's attention followed her too. Faced with countless live stream cameras shoved toward her face, Freya remained perfectly calm. She nodded politely to the crowd and said openly, "I'm the Freya that Sissy was talking about. Honestly, I'd love to become William's affair partner. Unfortunately, I never had the courage to confess to him, but I heard he's getting divorced now, so I'm hoping to slide right into the vacancy seamlessly." "Excuse me, big sis, are you trying to ruin me here?" I was completely speechless. Freya merely winked at me before saying, "At the very least, I'm more worthy of you than that brain-dead ex-wife of yours, right?" At that moment, Gerald rushed over and pointed at us furiously. "You shameless adulterers, you've ruined people's lives." You what?" Freya cut him off coldly. "Gerald, while Lydia was still legally married to William, you and Lydia underwent artificial insemination together, resulting in her pregnancy. I already have evidence of which hospital you visited, when you went, and which doctor handled the procedure. I've seen people try to twist the truth before, but I've never seen idiots as hopeless as you two. You didn't even think to destroy the evidence beforehand." Chapter 10. I was finished. I cared about my reputation too, and I definitely didn't want this kind of scandal spreading everywhere. But now, for quite a while, I was probably going to become gossip material among everyone in our industry. Seeing my expression, Freya smiled at me. "Don't worry, I don't mind. I mind." I rubbed my forehead helplessly. Then I turned toward the streamers and said, "Since these people are shameless enough to expose themselves, I might as well release the evidence too." Right after that, I had my assistant play the surveillance footage from the luxury apartment on the giant screen outside the building. Included in the footage was Lydia's father ranting about how netizens are brainless idiots easy to manipulate, and other nonsense like that. The bullet comments in the live stream instantly exploded. At first, everyone had been calling me a cheating scumbag. Now the entire internet had turned against them instead, because too many people had gathered outside the building. The situation had already become a public safety hazard. The police department immediately sent additional officers and took the protesters away. As for Lydia, she remained lying on the stretcher from beginning to end and was eventually carried away too. Later, Freya and I held a separate live-streamed press conference to clarify the entire situation. And during the conference, Freya shamelessly used the opportunity to confess her feelings to me again, leaving me both amused and speechless. For quite a long time afterward, Lydia and the others disappeared completely from my life. She also refused to sign the divorce papers, so I eventually filed for divorce formally through the court. Meanwhile, my project was nearing completion, but there were still several difficult business connections left unresolved. Freya ended up using her elite social circle and connections to arrange several private dinners for me. Thanks to her, all the relationships were finally smoothed out. That night, Freya got drunk again, and in the private room, only the two of us remained. She leaned against me stubbornly without moving, mumbling softly, "William, I've liked you for many years now, ever since school. What exactly do you like about me?" I was genuinely curious. Truthfully, I had always remembered her too. After all, she had been one of the few truly untouchable Ice Queen goddesses back then. "You just caught my eye, and you're amazing too. Starting from nothing and building something this huge all by yourself," Freya murmured sleepily. "But honestly, the biggest reason is your face. When I used to read novels, I always loved those male leads wearing white shirts under the sunlight. You have exactly the kind of face I imagine for a perfect male lead. Good-looking and capable. If I'm not going to like someone like you, should I go fall for some useless rich heir from an arranged marriage instead?" Fair enough. I had honestly expected some cliché dramatic explanation, like how I had accidentally helped her years ago or something. Once the project was fully launched, I finally wasn't nearly as busy anymore. As for my divorce case with Lydia, because she failed to appear during the first hearing, and because first trials in divorce cases rarely approve separation immediately, we still weren't officially divorced yet. But my lawyer assured me the second hearing would absolutely grant the divorce. Meanwhile, Freya had already shamelessly moved into my house with bags upon bags of luggage, and on her very first night there, she pounced on me immediately afterward, though she ended up crying from the pain the entire time. 3 months later, Lydia and I officially divorced. Lydia's father and mother were arrested for spreading false rumors and disrupting public safety. Gerald ended up in prison too, and for even longer. After all, he had taken kickbacks worth tens of millions from my company. Once the divorce was finalized, Freya completely stopped holding herself back, especially because her parents had been desperately waiting for her to get married and have children. So we immediately began preparing for the wedding. And in the end, we held a magnificent wedding, grand enough to be called the wedding of the century. On the day of the wedding, everything had originally gone perfectly, but after Freya and I returned home, we received a package. Inside was a cell phone. There was no lock screen. The moment it was opened, a video started playing automatically. Lydia appeared in the video. Her face was deathly pale, and her expression looked completely unhinged. "William, congratulations on your wedding, and I prepared a wedding gift for you too. This gift will stay with you for the rest of your life." Then she let out a disturbingly twisted smile and slowly pulled out a knife. Pressing it against her throat, I immediately covered Freya's eyes, stopping her from seeing the bloody scene that followed. As for me, aside from the visual shock of the gruesome image itself, my heart remained completely unmoved. When you no longer love someone, whether they live or die has nothing to do with you anymore.